This is the Niger River running through the country's capital, Niamey. Looks are deceiving. More than 85% of the country is desert. Micromanaging the water supply and forecasting rainfall isn't just science, it's a national urgency. And that's the job of Agimet, a research centre outside the capital. But access to water is a crucial issue throughout the continent. So with EU financing, the centre is also a training school for students around Africa to learn about the management of water resources.
I intend to go back to where I was working before. I come from an agricultural background and I came here to learn new skills. I come from a farming background and I have put in place what I have learned about water conservation. That will allow me to add my little bit of knowledge to help develop my country.
This centre fits into the European Union's long-term goal of sustainable development for the African continent. The EU is by far Africa's largest single donor. Last year, most of its €49 billion of aid went there. But Brussels has pledged to ramp up that figure by next year. The EU has vowed to find an extra €20 billion to help the world's poorest countries. But that's a tough sell in the current economic climate, because the 27 national governments that make up the EU are trying to find the cash to save their own economies. EU officials know that, but point out no matter how hard the world economic crisis is on the rich West, it's the poorest countries who are the most vulnerable.
In the last years, more than 150 million came out from poverty, and the same 150 million, if not more, are now at risk, because as soon as the crisis will hit, and they will totally fall back into poverty. So they are vulnerable because exposed, and vulnerable because just recovered, at least partially.
The credit crisis means the continent has less access to capital than ever, and remittances are down from Africans working overseas. On top of that, a spike in raw materials and imported food costs could wreak fresh havoc on the continent, especially in countries like Liberia.
Liberia is a country recovering from conflict. There are very few production capacities in the country. There's very little employment. There's a lot of informal activity going on. And in Monrovia, we do know that 90% of the rice in Monrovia is imported. So if you put these factors together, a high degree of poverty, a recent conflict, and now a price rise, you might have the ingredients for a very difficult situation indeed.
But, as the EU admits, in the past as much as €7 billion of aid has been wasted. All too often the work of different agencies overlaps. To improve efficiency, they are now being asked to specialise. This anti-malnutrition programme in Mali is what donor countries have in mind. Rather than providing food alone, the aim is to teach mothers to feed their children properly and spot the signs of hunger-related illnesses before it's too expensive to treat.
When your child is ill, all your money goes to medicines. When your child is healthy, your money doesn't go to the pharmacist. Rather, you can use it to send the child to school or to buy things for the family.
But it's not just humanitarian aid the EU is looking to fund, but large-scale infrastructure projects. The lack of energy and water infrastructure is one of the major development obstacles in sub-Saharan Africa, and a large down payment came from the EU's own investment arm.
Once you get these countries that linked into a bigger economic mass with bigger and bigger potential, then of course the whole possibility for development starts to take on a different measure, if you like. It becomes a market more worthwhile for investment because there's more people involved, the goods can move, people can move, energy can move, water can move.
Leaving aside the question of solidarity, which is still important, but I think in terms of business, it is our interest, because it is in the interest of peace, of security, and of economic growth, which eventually will create also jobs in our countries, as it has been the case so far.
The Union is aiming to deliver €69 billion of aid, but it's worth remembering that accounts for less than 0.6% of the EU's gross national income.